noted Boston Celtics lover Bill Simmons discussing the possibility of Giannis Antetokounmpo being a trade target.
Oh, yes. Why did I see that and come across my eyes?
For the Boston Celtics.
Of course he wants them on his Celtics. Of course he would love to have that. Of course Bill Simmons and the desperate people of Brookline and Dorchester want and Andover want any help they can for their beloved Celtics, who bowed out in the first round sort of unceremoniously. So we'll get into that. I thought you might be going there or a different.
We're going there.
I assumed you were going right to the Armen special, which was Hall of Fame gatekeeping conversation, since we do have the class out for 2027. But we'll get to that as well. It's a rather weak class. Maybe there isn't much debate there. But I thought that's where you were going. But I do like the Giannis thing.
Well, and you say that, well, of course they want some help. And we discussed it as throughout the majority of the end of the regular season, that the goal of watching this postseason was to see who went out in the worst fashion and who felt the desperation, who felt the angst, who felt the pressure from maybe the internal folks, maybe the folks in the owner's suite, maybe the individuals that are in the locker room, maybe the folks that jump on a Twitch stream and say that, after winning conference finals MVP, winning a title, playing in, I believe, 6 conference finals in your career, saying the year you bow out in the first round and your running mate is out with a torn Achilles was the most fun year you had in your entire career. A lot of times that sparks up even more conversation.
Yeah.
So it's a hot one of what would be the most painful exit and which one would be the worst place to potentially send the big fella to. And I don't know that many people thought the Boston Celtics were going to run down that ramp and have their entrance music played this early into the Giannis Rumble. But all of a sudden, they're the number one participant because they're the first team out that's as desperate as anybody.
That's the thing. I think we first and foremost, we didn't initially assume they'd be out this early. I think that's probably the main thing.
They were the odds-on favorite to win the East by a mile.
Yeah, and deservedly so. I think walking into the playoffs, I think when they were up 3-1, I'm like, all right, well, I think they're the team to beat. I told Dennis Krause that in the round table a couple weeks ago. I hope no one has that tape. But I said they were the team to beat in the East. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reason, and I could see, but would that be the worst place for Giannis to go? I mean, it would hurt me. It would hurt me emotionally.
Well, that's the question at 877-794-1973, and most importantly, the people want to hear from Wisconsin's fan, America's fan, Armen Saryan. Mm-hmm. Would that be the most painful place to see Giannis Antetokounmpo play basketball in 26-27?
It really probably would be. I mean, it'd be. The Pacers would be, but I don't think there's any chance he's going to the Pacers. They're just not in that situation. It's not really the likelihood. They're not really a contender.
That relationship also seems like it might be a little tough.
Obviously, that's not a factor, right, for many reasons. So if you're going to really go down the laundry list of places you might go, places you don't want them to go, we just talked about Minnesota, how we don't really see them as the rival that I do with the Vikings and things like that. That's always been a rumored place as well. Don't think it would hurt me as much for some reason to see him there. It's just the Timberwolves aren't that team. I think them or the Bulls. I think those are the two teams. I think it would hurt me to see him be in red with the Chicago Bulls, and it would hurt me a lot to see him in green with the Boston Celtics, just because they've been in our ire and our rivalry for so long, or at least a team that we've been trying to battle for so long.
The Heat and Celtics have been the Bucks' biggest rival, while Giannis has been a member of the team.
Can I say
those
one
two
thing?
have been the biggest thorns in the side and the ones that have prohibited them and prevented them the most.
Definitely. The one thing would make me happy, though, is I do feel like it would be funny to watch in Boston, because if Giannis goes there, right away there's the identity crisis, because it'd become Giannis's team, and then right away you'd see I think it would be, but then again, Giannis is kind of like the sun that all my thoughts revolve around in that sense.
He's joining a team that just won the title a couple of years ago.
But they've already had
He's the guy joining the culture, and he's the guy that then would be joining the team whose coach he had some pretty ridiculously hot praise for. When they came to town just a couple of weeks ago. I don't necessarily know that it becomes Giannis's team. I would actually counter with Giannis would like to go to Boston because it wouldn't have to be his team.
Maybe, but I feel like he'd be. I just still feel like he'd be the center. I mean, Tatum and Brown have had that kind of who's the biggest star thing going on there. And Tatum, when he's right, is a top 5 player, obviously. But I also think that about Giannis. at least think we'd be witnessing an identity crisis in Boston a little bit, and that might be funny to see how it shakes out. But I guess, in theory, if you're Giannis now on this part of your career and you don't have to be the centerpiece, that might be good for you because the pressure's off you a little bit. There's not as much focus on what you're doing, in game by defenses and off the court as well. And maybe the responsibility is shared, so to speak. And maybe that's where some of the best, outcomes are for teams. But I don't want to see him in a Celtics uniform. Although Heat now that I'm thinking about this, Miami Heat are probably another team that I'd share quite a distaste for.
We are less than a month removed from the article at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel that Laura Nickel wrote when she was able to have the conversation with Giannis. And he said, everything about my decision is based on winning culture. Like you saw, I talked to Coach Joe Mazzulla. I said, you had so many opportunities to make excuses, but you didn't. And I said, he said, they're good players. I said, no, it's about the mentality that you instilled in your place. He would be going to somebody else's place.
Yeah.
He would be going and getting a room in somebody else's house. He would be going and fitting into somebody else's already established foundation in trying to then take it to a new level. I don't necessarily, and frankly, the Bucks wouldn't, from the indications and all of this, what it would mean for Milwaukee. I just want to know from the pure fan perspective, would that be the worst place to see him play basketball in 2026?
I think it would be akin to for me personally to Chicago.
How on earth it could get worse.
Yeah.
Well, luckily now, the Bulls said a couple of weeks ago, or at least we had the one guy who did TV in Chicago.
Well,
he's out.
They're not going
to. Now the entire front office and coaching staff, they're all out. They could be interested. I don't think they are. I think there would be a lot of other teams that would, and I think the Boston Celtics would be right front and center at the top of the list because they fit the criteria that I talked about all year long, which was the team that gets desperate enough after the worst possible situation and the one that ultimately might get their hand forced. I mean, Jaylen Brown, clearly it appears that there is going to be either a Game of Thrones situation in Boston and it's going to be him or me. And if they pick Jaylen Brown, I think anybody on planet Earth that would end up with Jason Tatum would be in a much better situation.
Sure.
But Jaylen Brown was in the top 5 in MVP candidacy this year.
Yeah.
There are a lot worse packages you could get. I think he would probably be rerouted and get you another significant package, maybe your own 2027 first round pick back, which would be nice if the Bucks are going to be the warm cheeks that we anticipate they probably would be in 26-27. To be able to actually have that asset would be a nice thing. And the Atlanta Hawks are the only team that can offer that to you. So there's ways that this gets maneuvered, and it actually lines up decently well for both sides. It could be the spot that nets you the best return and the quickest chance to revival.
That's for sure.
You also had to do it just a couple of years ago and watch one of your favorites, Drew Holiday, go and hoist a title with that team in green.
It hurt.
Banner 18. To see that and to see Giannis be the guy that ended up helping them continue to just find new places in TD Garden to put banners, that would be the worst possible outcome, I think, from watching his entire 13-year career with the Milwaukee Bucks, the team that you found year in and year out to be the biggest thorn in the side, the one that ultimately ended their best chance to repeat or get back after winning it in 21.
Yeah.
By coming back from 3-2, beating you back-to-back nights and seeing Tatum go for 46 in your building. That would be the worst possible scenario for me.
It would hurt. It would hurt a few ways. But the thing is, and you talk about Drew, it's like, at least I always knew deep down that title didn't mean as much to him that ours did. I know he feels that deep down. Sure. I know that. We all know that deep down. He knows that. And I'd feel the same about Giannis. From a practical standpoint, though, it would hurt. But from a practical standpoint, you're right. There probably is no other situation in which you're going to get an established NBA star back to Jaylen Brown's level. That's the only really spot. I mean, we're talking about Miami. I mean, Tyler Hero's not Jaylen Brown. He's a really good player. We like Tyler, but he's not Jaylen Brown. Anywhere else you're trading him, it might be for picks or it might be for guys that are young talent, somewhere else, but maybe not as established. But you would assume if it is Boston that it's going to be Jaylen plus, right? I mean, you would hope at least.
Well,
I don't know about how much plus.
No, I don't think it would be much plus.
You think it would be
potentially a contract to match it up. I think it might be a pick. I also don't think you're getting Jaylen Brown in the conversation.
Well, that's a problem for me.
I don't know what Jaylen Brown does for you. Your team right now is still, then you would get a lesser version of a superstar to lead a team to do what? Maybe get to the 8 seed,
so you're saying,
get to the 10 seed.
But you'd get him back. You're saying he wouldn't be the guy.
No, the part would be that it would be rerouted. Brown would be out.
Oh, okay.
He would go to Atlanta. This is the overall package and the mathematics and everything like that. I think the framework of the deal would possibly be either Jalen Johnson or Zachary Richeche, who was the number 2 or 1 overall pick just a couple of years ago. And then your 2027 pick, a couple more picks, contract to line up. Maybe Dyson Daniels, who was first team All NBA a couple of years, would be in the conversation. But you'd get young players back and draft assets from Atlanta. He'd get shipped to Atlanta, and then they can compete and do whatever he wants because he wants to be the lead man of a show. But I don't believe you would get Brown. You would want Brown. Yeah. You would want him in Milwaukee because you'd want somebody to hang your hat on, is what it sounds like from what I'm hearing.
I think so. I think he's the best player you could possibly get in return. He's a known quantity. You're right. You're not really solving your problem of building for the future in that regard, or at least getting assets to build for the future. But you'd be an instant contender, at least to be a playoff team with Jaylen Brown, I think. But the way you're putting it in rerouting him to get more stuff, I could see as well. I think both are legitimate strategies. But then you'd have to stomach seeing Giannis and Green, and they'd be really good. There's no question about it. And how many times will we have to see Jason Tatum send fake text to Kobe saying, "I got my Shaq now," and stuff like that. You know how Tatum does it. That's how he'd be looking at it. See, that's why I'm not 100% sure it'd be Tatum's team, just like the way Shaq walked into Miami and said, "This is Dwayne Wade's team," or Reggie White walked in and said, "This is Brett Favre's team." Trying to be deferential, which is good, but he might still be the centerpiece of what makes them great. I guess just like it reminds me of Shaq.
He'll be a massive part of it. But then Shaq played on 7 different teams after that?
Yeah, it was still Kobe was still the mainstay.
Kobe was the mainstay.
And it's like before and after Tatum would still be the Boston
Reggie
mainstay.
White. He also went and played for another team after that.
He
went very, very quickly. So he would be the hired gun to take them over the top. And I think that one would be awful to watch for Bucks fans to see him in Green. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. 877-794-1973. I do think the Brown deal would be fun. It would be interesting. You'd at least get somebody that would be worth going to the games for.
Exactly.
And I think that's a tough spot as to where we're going to see, and we're going to hear from Taylor Jenkins, the new Bucks head coach, coming up here later on today, 2:00. He's going to get introduced. I don't know. He has a better idea as to what kind of team he's coaching, what team he's planning to coach, who he is planning to coach. Maybe it's completely a different story, but if the Bucks would end up with Jalen Johnson, I think it would be Johnson or Richeche. Obviously, you'd want Jalen Johnson more.
Yeah, really.
If you'd end up with Jalen Johnson, your 2027 pick back, and one other contract to match it, I think that's a hell of a package at the moment with a 1 year left on the contract superstar for somebody who also, as much as we love him, has also been rather dinged up over the last 4 years. And that is going to be a tough thing to tag when even the biggest Giannis fans could have easily forecasted a shorter prime and a quicker potential fall because of the style of play and the way that he plays.
Well, yeah, and that's always been the concern with Giannis. Also, the realization maybe from some that you're not going to get the Rudy Gobert 5 picks package.
You're definitely not getting
those days. No. There seems to be those Hugos are off the lot now. Those days are gone, unfortunately. And
again, even like Desmond Bane, they traded 4 first-round picks.
That's the other thing I was going to bring up.
But if you're going to end up, sorry, and I don't mean to cut you off, but also if you end up with your pick back in 27, and that forecasts to be a top 5, top 6 pick, that's better than the 20th pick 4 times, right?
It is. I mean, because it should be a good draft. And that's always been the theory about the NBA draft is top 5 picks are much more important than 2 20s. And I think in this case, it's probably true because you want to have those top 5 picks in the NBA draft if you can. Now, obviously, the lottery is going to change and things like that, but we'll see. There's no chance. I mean, I don't think the Celtics should do it, but there's no chance to be Tatum instead of Brown, right? Billy, is that what we're both agreeing on? Is there a 0% chance?
No.
Is there a 5% chance would they ever trade Tatum instead of Brown?
I guess I can't say it would be a 0% chance.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it personally. I think one is definitely better than the other.
Yeah, I would keep Tatum too.
I also think the tough part is, and this is where it comes to, it's loud in Boston. That is a loud fan base. It's one of the most outspoken ones that there is in sport. And my man literally just won the title within 1,000 days. And then went on his podcast with two buddies. I don't know who those dudes were standing behind him in that weird live stream. But just goes off and says, like, yeah, we blew a 3-1 lead. Mm-hmm. My best friend on the team, my guy, blew out his Achilles.
Yeah.
Had the worst year of his personal and professional life. You know who had the most fun? Me. Most fun I've ever had. Mm-hmm. I've enjoyed the hell out of myself. I don't know how well that goes over.
I don't know.
I don't know how well that goes over in a fan base that is as outspoken and loud in Boston. Like, I think there's going to be a little bit of a drumbeat to everybody saying, hey, we knew at some point these two were going to have to get separated. And now somebody needs to go to a different school and somebody needs to move out now. And it appears like that time might be coming. The time might be coming in Boston.
Yeah. There's a couple more things that would be entertaining to watch with Boston and Giannis in Boston. He'd finally get a positive media narrative, first of all. I don't think that's ever happened for Giannis nationally. Like, he'll get, like, he's a Celtic now. So they'll say all these great things about him all the time, and that'll be nice to hear. And it'll be nice for him.
MVP again.
Just like maybe getting the running. Maybe his like triple-double average would be good enough for them. To at least get considered. And I think, like, Simmons has been kind of soft launching the whole, like, Giannis is not good or being a Giannis hater now. So he'd have to totally change his whole emotion on Giannis, because it seems like he's been doing that, at least to me, for the last few months. Like, I think he said something. I didn't listen to it, but I read that he asked the question if Giannis was ever considered the best player in the NBA on one of his recent podcasts. And it just seems like he'd been going to that whole angle for a while. But obviously that would do a 180 if he's a Celtic. So that'd be kind of funny to watch. Well, I'm not a Bill Simmons hater, but I'm an observer.
I do think that was a fair question when he asked it. I mean, they unanimously, people were still saying Kevin Durant was the best player in the world, even though they lost in the second round that year. He wasn't the only guy saying that at that time.
Maybe, but I remember him saying, like, after the championship, Giannis has the belt now or something like that. So I don't know. I think it's a little wild to hear you say that personally. That's just me. I think there was clearly a time when Giannis was, not to mention the MVPs, and then he won the
this is exactly what I wanted. I'm already at 521 now, getting the man that loves and defends anything media to start hating on one of the biggest podcasters, the biggest media guys in a long time.
I like Bill Simmons. I always have. But
I'm seeing the swell of emotions rolling around in there, and I can feel there's a tidal wave going back and forth. No. There's some weird waters rolling through. He's trying to figure out where he's staying.
These are just facts that he's had about Giannis. It'd be funny to see him kind of flail and reverse course a little bit, have to turn that ship around. Yeah. But overall, I don't want that to be the reason I don't want this to happen. I don't want Giannis to be a Celtic. I want him to be a Buck, actually. It's in reality, I still want him to be a Buck. I mean, maybe that's an unpopular decision these days.
I'll be honest with you. I think you might be in the minority right now.
I think I definitely am these days, to be honest with you. I think I am. I think most people are emotionally processed and ready for him to move on, and are just waiting for that. And to the point where they're sort of like, get on with it. This is better for our future type thing. And I'm just not going to be there. I don't know what else to tell. Now, if it happens,
you ever could get there?
I mean, I will handle it if and when it happens, but I'm not going to ever be like, great, Giannis is not a Buck. I'm not going to say that. I can't see myself saying that. Now, whether or not it's logically better for the franchise, that's something different. That's something you have to come to terms with.
And that's something to discuss.
Still believe if he's healthy and motivated and everything's right, he's still, one of the best in the league, and I want him on my team then.
Well, it's also hard to look at what we're watching in the Eastern Conference and say that at his best, he still wouldn't be the best player in the East.
It's hard to, because I agree. But because if he's healthy, wouldn't he contend this team to somewhere? It seems like.
You watched
this team. Not this team, but a
you
team.
watched it. You watched how bad they were, and how close. How can they actually get better without giving up? They always say you got to give something to give something.
I know, and that's our problem. We don't have
give something talent to get something.
Yeah.
And you got the something of the offseason, and we'll see how much they want to potentially get back. 877-794-1973. Or if they could. And if indeed the big fella is playing in a different color next year, how painful would it be to see in green? 877-794-1973.
The wrong green, man.
That would be the wrong green.
Wrong green.
That would be the wrong green. That bright green. That ridiculous shamrock green.
Kelly green? Yeah, Kelly green. Is that what they call it?
I don't know what they call it. I think I've
Kelly
seen
green.
Kelly green for about 18 different things. So
know, right?
877-794-1973.